previous elections, if you're asked to rate these elections, 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest, what would be your rating?
4.
Oh, wow, 4 is relatively low.
If you want to provoke me, I'll go a bit lower. But let me give it to him. I believe that this whole idea of putting everything on your shoulders, running an affair from Abuja to the creeks of Port Harcourt, Delta, Ebonyi, Benue, Kaduna, Sokoto, it wouldn't just work. It's about time we decentralize a lot of things in this country. I just believe that we are still behaving as though we are under a colonial master. We should break loose what it is as a people and allow us trust ourselves and allow us do what we need to do and hold us accountable. This oligarchian arrangement of a boss sitting in Abuja and giving directives as though it will go down. I mean, the people you are giving directives to, they know obviously you are not following the directives as it ought to be. And trust Nigerians, if you tell them you know how to play games and they see you playing games, they'll teach you a better way and a faster way to play the games.
This is The Conversation. We're reaching you from KAFTAN's television here in the nation's capital, Abuja. If you just joined us, you're actually right on time for the interview. Our guest on the show tonight is Chief Kenneth Gbagi. He is the SDP Governorship Candidate in Delta State. It's great to have you on the show today, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right, now let's first start by breaking the ice. How have you been since after the governorship elections?
Quite happy.
Okay.
The election has come and gone, but the effect of the election and what we need to do thereafter is beginning. But between you and I, I'm happy that we were able to present ourselves for the election.
All right, so we will talk about the Delta State elections. We'll talk about the state elections. But first, let's talk about the general elections, the presidential elections, February 25th, 2023, with all that transpired, starting from the electioneering process down to the outcome of the elections, and then you still have people who feel disgruntled, who are there on the street protesting and all. What are your assessments so far from start to finish?
What my deductions will be is that the Electoral Umpire, which of course is INEC, made so much preparation, but this preparation does not translate as to what happened physically on the ground. And as somebody who participated in the election, I think INEC need to do a lot of work if they were to conduct another election in Nigeria. That would be my take. And
so with the political parties, the electorates?
The political parties, as you would know, are political parties who follow strictly the rules, regulations, and what is presented to them by INEC. I mean, their political parties are offshoots of INEC, if you must put it that way. And then I believe that INEC have a lot of job to do. I practically was on the ground for both elections. I participated very actively in the presidential election because I had a presidential candidate, just as well as what I did in the governorship election, which of course was my election. And then my deductions are that we have not fared well or very well in this election, if you ask me, put properly.
So judging from previous elections, if you're asked to rate these elections, 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest, what would be your rating?
4.
Oh, wow, 4 is relatively low.
If you want to provoke me, I'll go a bit lower, but let me give it to him. I believe that this whole idea of putting everything on your shoulders, running an affair from Abuja to the creeks of Port Harcourt, Delta, Ebonyi, Benue, Kaduna, Sokoto, it wouldn't just work. It's about time we decentralize a lot of things in this country. I just believe that we are still behaving as though we are under a colonial master. We should break loose what it is as a people and allow us trust ourselves and allow us do what we need to do and hold us accountable. This oligarchian arrangement of a boss sitting in Abuja and giving directives as though it will go down. I mean, the people you are giving directives to, they know obviously you are not following the directives as it ought to be. And trust Nigerians, if you tell them you know how to play games and they see you playing games, they teach you a better way and a faster way to play the game. So I believe that muzzling everything together, to say you are conducting one simple election from Abuja down to the creeks, down to the entire country, simply makes no sense. And that is greatly responsible for the kind of result, the kind of situation you have. If you see the presidential election, everybody was prepared. Everybody believed that INEC meant what he was saying. Everybody believed that, yes, there's a direction. So they were watching. But when they saw that INEC started the game, they started with regards to beavers, resort to beavers not being, on, switched off and all of that. The governors of the state where elections were conducted took complete control of the entire INEC process, wrote the results they wanted to write, allocated the results they wanted to allocate, and at the end of the day, you get what you get. Because they saw what happened in the presidential election, and they cashed in on the loopholes of what has happened and bought INEC people over, bought the situation over, got all the, the ballot papers, or whatever you call them, INEC, beaverses, and all of those were, found in toilets, found in bathroom, found in the street, and all of that. Because the first one, which is the presidential election, which was a test case, was nothing to write home about. So they just capitalized and did what they did. Thank God we have the judiciary as, the hope of the common man, as it were. We, in Delta, believe that it was an embarrassment, and we have approached the tribunals to complain as to what has happened and why we think that the election should go a different way than it went. It was a charade. Never has it been this bad. Even when we didn't use the beavers, it wasn't this crazy. So that's what you get.
All right. So I think you've said quite a lot of salient points that we're going to unbundle as we go on during the conversation. Now, you said that you've asked the tribunal to disqualify Delta State Governor-elect and both from PDP and APC, and then two others. Why so?
You see, we have been talkers, Nigerians in general, and unfortunately, Delta State in particular, we talk. We don't follow issues. Why they were all running elections and doing what they were doing. We meant to get to the bottom of it properly. I mean, there are laws in the country. If you want to put it very mildly, we have more laws in Nigeria than you have in England. We have more laws in Nigeria than you have in the US. In fact, you have more laws in Nigeria than most countries in the world. But the problem is that we do not test the efficacy of those laws. And they are there. People just lay accusing fingers on the judiciary, lay accusing fingers of people. The laws are there. Unless you test it, you will not understand what it is. Now, if you put it mildly, if you go to section 177 of the Constitution, it is clear. You do not put something on nothing. You cannot tell me that you have a master's degree and you do not have a primary school, secondary school, and first degree to show for it. And you say you have a master's degree. It doesn't happen that way. You know, when we went to school, there are people who, at the level of WAEC, what have you, did WAEC at home, you know, that's possible, but you still have the WAEC. You know, so when you come up with such tantrums and just believe that with money you can destroy the judiciary is not that lazy for anybody to destroy. I don't agree at all. So what I'm saying in effect is that all the candidates that contested with me, even though, put very mildly, if you see, if you watch the campaign, if you watch the movement, if you watch what happened in Delta, if the election was an election, I'll come out first without wasting time. I mean, Delta is a Christian state, for instance. If all the Catholics, all the Anglicans, all the Pentecostal, all the African church, name them, if they were rooting for Gbagi, all the traditional rulers, all the NGOs, all the teachers, all the labor unions and all of those were rooting for Gbagi, if the elections were real, between you and I, nobody would have come close to me. So what happened was that the election results you saw were mildly allocated along the lines of how they want to allocate it just to create a semblance of an election, which was not the case. Now, the good thing is, while they were waiting and expecting that we were going to be talking about how many vote cast, how many vote rigged and all of that, we patiently waited, and God in infinite mercy made it in such a way that all the 4 contestants in that election ahead or around me, as you have it, have no reason contesting the election. They don't have a record to contest the election. These are known, indicted criminals with falsification, forgery, and what have you. So I didn't waste my time at all. Instead of going into looking at election results and all of that, I just went straight to the point that they are ab initio not qualified to run the election. Search my document, and I search your document. And then that's what we've done. We presented our case to the tribunal that these persons you have before you have no results, have no qualification. Some of them have changed their names 7 times, 12 times. They forge result, forge affidavit, birth certificates, and what have you, several times. Some of them have claimed they went to school, they never went to school. Some of them have claimed they are contestant when they are not contestant. They say they are from their local government when they don't have a local government they've come from. They have been indicted, they stole money and all of that. They are not qualified to contest and present themselves. And the reason for all of that is the fact that lack of character, largely in this part of the world, lack of character is what has bedeviled the country called Nigeria. Very few human beings are left with character, unfortunately. And I don't know what God will do for us to bring back character. If they had character, they never would have presented themselves. And I tell you, what we have done now, we send a lot of messages going forward for purpose of election, because people are going to, I understand Lagos State has started copying what we have done. The fact is that, look at your opponent. It's the way of election in the US. It's a way of election in US. It's a way of election in Sweden. If your opponent is a criminal and he presents himself and believes that nobody's going to talk about it, nobody's going to look into it, then it's a sail through for you. Yeah. I used a simple analogy the other day. If you see all records, even if you see your certificate, the one you have, if you look at it very cleverly, it says this certificate is issued to you on the basis of the documentation you have presented. Were they to be found not to be correct, this certificate is null and void. You remember? Now, in all electoral matters and where we have come from, the INEC was very clever. They got you to do a certification and swear to an affidavit as to the authenticity and the presentation of papers you have done. They got everybody to swear. So that alone, if they understood the implications of that document that INEC has put together, they shot themselves by the foot. Because apart from the fact that they've submitted irresponsible stolen documents from brothers and sisters or from schools that never existed or never had anything to do. Take, for instance, one of the candidates who said he went to Huron University. The Huron University he claimed he went to is in one drug haven. I mean, they're all some of them are drug addicts, as you know. And that university was shut down since for bankruptcy. But it never went there. The university, you got all the reports of everybody who graduated 2 years before and 2 years after the date this particular candidate claimed he graduated from the university, and he was not there, including their photographs. So you see, people just believe that anything goes. But talking to a criminologist, a lawyer, and one who has passed through this length of life, having risen to the office of a minister in this country, I think I know what I wanted. Okay. And that is what has happened.
All right, so now you talked about, you said you have people who were already rooting for you, but the Anglicans, the Catholics. And
the entire religious church relationship in Delta State rooted for me.
Okay, now, so if you have to, judging from previous elections and how we've seen how much you have people rooting for their candidates, and at the end of the day, it doesn't translate to votes, do you think that could have been a place that could have faulted, you could look for faults?
No. Look at it. Delta State is a mini Nigeria, if you must know that. And if an election result came about the way it came and nobody is in the street jubilating, nobody is happy, nobody is talking about it, even the people who were said to be declared themselves know that they didn't win election. Election was not theirs to win. And whatever result they just gave to them. There's no, those joy and enthusiasm of, I won an election, is not there in the state. And in any case, I feel very sorry that Nigerians should be very careful. Delta State is a hot pot. It's a very, very sensitive place, and a state for that matter, that ties the entire country together. So were you to treat the issue of Delta with levity, as though, oh, it's a cash cow, everybody just go there to make money, everybody just go there to get to, it will get to a stage where the state will explode, where the people haven't been pushed to the wall without getting what they want to get. There's the time and length you can push people to the wall and they'll fight back. The fact is that everybody in Delta State knows that I won that election. Everybody knows that I ought to be the governor. Everybody knows that what is on the ground shows. I'm the biggest investor in the state. I mean, everybody understood the fact that I have what it takes to turn around the state. So everybody, the expectation was high. So for you to just pick results and start allocating results to people, but while they were doing the allocation, God was doing what he needed to do. And that's what you find today in Delta. And then that's why we have come to say, look, 1, 2, 3, 4 are not qualified.
So why did it take you this long before it to come out, even after the elections? One would have asked, why not before, during the elections?
No. Somebody else had asked me this question, and my reply to that person was, were you faulting me to be a bit wiser? You saw what happened to those who attempted to go to pre-elections and what have you. You saw what happened. I mean, I'm a lawyer. I know the best place to come to was the tribunal. I didn't want to waste my time because all of those pre-election issues that makes no meaning. My case is a case of disqualification of persons that are not competent, persons that are not eligible, persons that are not qualified, persons with criminal record vying for an election. And the proper body, the proper judicial authority to deal with the case is the tribunal and not a pre-election matter. And that's what I did. I have not seen anybody who had said my decision to go to the tribunal was wrong. They have asked questions as to, oh, why not you have gone to the pre-election? I says, no, I didn't want to waste my time. It's a fruitless exercise. The fact here is simple. This is a one, take it or leave it. Your result is fake. Oh, sorry, my result is not fake. this is the original result, and this is where I got it from. It's very easy. You don't need soothsayer to say it. All of those, exercise in futility of going back and forth. No, it's an election. You've participated in an election. You swore to an affidavit that you have never gone to jail before. Here you are with a record that you've been to jail. Oh, I didn't go to jail. This record is wrong. It's very simple. For instance, a lot of people did not research the law. I have one of the candidates, or two of them, who came to me and said, yes, I know you know that I went to jail, but it's over 10 years. That's not what the rule says. Go back to the Supreme Court. There's authorities on this. If you are a criminal, you have been to jail, whether it's beyond 10 years or not, you ought to declare it in that form. When you say, have you ever been indicted or been to prison before? Your answer will be yes. On year so and so, I went to prison. On so and so, I went to jail. On account of so and so. However, it is past 10 years since I went to jail or I was indicted or... Are you following me? Once you have that, then that statute of limitation will avail you. But having lied, which becomes perjurious actually, to say, oh no, I've never been to jail, I've never been arrested or I've never been indicted. Whether it is 50 years or not, the Supreme Court is clear on it. You lied. The information is not correct. So relying on the excuse that it is past 10 years is, in my opinion, ignorant, and it doesn't make sense at all.
All right, so now, what's your faith with regards to the tribunal? How far it will get to? Because you will recall all that happened with the Supreme Court with regards to the case of the Akwa Ibom State Governor, Senator Akpabio, Godswill Akpabio. And then you also recall what happened with the Senate President, Senate Lawan. With all that happened, and then some people still say that, are you sure the judiciary is still the last hope of the common man? So do you still have faith that in all of this, it will come out and you will come out victorious?
Put it this way. You do not lose hope on the only thing you've got. You and I have only one circle. We have only one option. It's to rely on the judiciary. Now, when you take cases before competent courts of jurisdiction, you must look at individual cases. Because I'm not seized with the fact of Lawal's case or Akpabio's case, I will not be doing service to the judiciary one, to the bar, and more particularly to my younger ones that are coming behind me as lawyers. Every case has its own peculiarity. What I did was to do a grand research, and I've worked very well. And you can see the lawyers that are doing these matters. They are people of no mean reputation and character, and people that have been tested and trusted, not people who are double dealing as some lawyers are doing. My petition is straightforward. There's no room for maneuver. You are taken to a psychiatric home, for instance. Is it true or not? You have answered 11 different names and 12 different birth dates. Is this you or not? I don't know if you understand. You have sworn to affidavit before INEC, this document. Was you the one who swore to it? Is this your character? I mean, it's very simple. I mean, when judges have such a frontal yes, no, yes, no, yes, no situation such as this, it would turn the entire Nigerian judiciary into nothingness were they to go differently. These are very straightforward questions, and I believe very strongly that this case in Delta, everybody knows that Delta has been a sore point in the country called Nigeria. And then God, who has pushed us to this level, will see us through.
Now, looking at the statement made by a particular governor in one of the oil-rich states, he said that the reason why people, electorates don't vote a particular candidate is because they've not seen his track records. If they have seen the things that you've commissioned and all of that, they will definitely be rooting for you. Now, I hear someone say that you came out as, during the result, you came out at the 5th position. So why isn't the person at the 2nd, the 3rd, saying that he's going to go to the tribunal? Why is it you that came out as the 5th?
I don't know if you follow the discussions. It doesn't matter if I came out as number 40. It doesn't matter if I came out as 15. It doesn't matter if I came out as 75. It doesn't matter. The fact remains that all the persons all the way before myself have criminal records. And the criminality as identified and attached to each and every of them is there for them to deny or otherwise. There's no reason. When somebody say, oh, you are number 5, I say, it doesn't matter.
All right.
I could be number 60. The fact remains that in a relay race, a 400 by 400 meter race, now, you know, normally that race, there are about 10, 15 people that takes that race. Is that correct? Now, when they start that race, you find that the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th persons on that relay race tested positive for dope. But the 7th and 8th, 9th persons were without dope. So they had done that race not because of their ability to have done it, but because of the aid of having been doped. Is that correct? Are they still the winner? No, answer the question yourself.
No, they are not.
They are not. So you test this one, it has dope, you say go away. You test this one, it's dope, you say go away. You test this one, it's dope, you say go away. And you test it up to number 7. They are all doped. The winner of the medal is the 8th man, the 9th man, the 10th and 11th man who tested negative to dope. Is that correct? Is that the simple rule? No, I'm asking you.
No, it's not correct, even though I'm the one asking the question here.
Okay.
But now let's, at the fact that even in the presidential elections, you still have people who feel disgruntled, some of the candidates who are still going to court, saying that the president-elect has one challenge or one issue or the other. Now, and then you have your own presidential candidate, that's Prince Adewale Adebayo, has accepted the olive branch that has been extended by the presidential candidate. One would ask, why aren't you also accepting the olive branch?
Every case is different. Adewale's case is different. Where Adewale is coming from is different from where I'm coming from. And if Adewale saw reasons why he accepted an olive branch or whatever he did, I don't have those facts. Unfortunately, while Adewale was doing what he was doing, as you are now telling me, I was preparing for my election, so I didn't really know what he did. But I'm not moved by what Adewale has done. I'm moved by the facts that are before Deltans. I'm moved by the facts that are before the judiciary. I'm moved by the fact that there are acts of criminality. Were I to be irresponsible to say, oh, let criminality go, then it means the entire purpose of my being who I am as a lawyer, as a criminologist, has failed the people. I'm only saying, let us do it rightly. And I've lived all my life like that. If you go back to my antecedent, I would not associate or do anything illegally or something that I believe is not right. I will not participate. I'm sorry. All
right, awesome. So even as we begin to round up, like I've asked before, what are your hopes with regards to this case? How far do you see it go forward, even as we're looking forward to May 29, 2023?
My prayer is that the tribunal should do what they ought to do with the time limits they've got and come out with the facts of the case. And I believe very strongly that this case is too good for anybody to maneuver. So like I said, my trust in the judiciary remains the same. I mean, if I didn't believe in the judiciary first and foremost, I would not be a lawyer. And if I'm a lawyer, it means I believe that if you marshal your case properly and you have the facts that you have presented, like we have done in the case of this tribunal, by the grace of God, we'll be victorious.
What a fine way to leave this conversation. We actually wish you all the best, Chief Kenneth.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us.
It's my pleasure.